With a special interview here. We have a chance to welcome Dr. Erin Baker to Live Impact News. Dr. Baker is a professional of mechanical and industrial engineering at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and while there, she directs the Energy Transition Institute. Dr. Baker, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. How's everything going with you today, first of all?
Great, everything's fantastic.
All right, awesome. And hopefully it continues to be so after this interview is over. We're going to try our best to explore topics that really have a national significance, global significance, but also right here in Hampton Roads. We're talking more specifically about renewable energy and the renewable energy industry right here in the United States. Now, we know that during President Donald Trump's second term, he has taken a real specified sort of attack on renewable energy, preferring to favor fossil fuels, at least based on his policy and what he has implemented. I want to start broad here and just say, how much of a hit has the renewable energy industry taken since President Trump took office for his second term?
Yeah, great question. The answer is that so far it has not taken a hit. We have not seen it have a big impact. Wind, solar, and battery capacity grew at record rates in 2025, adding 50 gigawatts. So it's continuing to grow, and I think the reason is clear. It's because it's good business, it's profitable, it also suppresses prices, which is really important to ratepayers right now. And so we see it growing everywhere. And I always like to point to Texas, where they have the most wind, the second most solar, and batteries growing at an immense rate there. That is 100% because it's good business.
And when we talk about that, the federal government can attempt to sort of tamper down on the growth of that industry. But is this a situation where that industry is almost sort of government proof because the consumer will speak in its favor time and time again?
Well, that's a great question. That remains to be seen. I think a growing industry, any industry that's targeted by the government, is somewhat vulnerable. And a growing industry, can be a little easier to kneecap a growing industry than to kind of push back on an entrenched industry. So that does provide a little bit of vulnerability. But certainly we see it growing like crazy. And with the focus on energy prices right now and the fact that right now renewable energy will suppress prices, I think it's going to make it harder to push it back.
That was actually going to be among my line of questioning. Obviously, we're in the midst of a crisis right now. The war in Iran has created a situation where gas prices are over $4 on average for the first time since 2022, the last time a major sort of globally involved war broke out, as it may be. When that happens, obviously people are experiencing a lot of pain at the pump. It is difficult for consumers. It can impact our economy as a whole. But when it comes to the renewable energy industry, does that provide a benefit to that particular industry?
Yeah, well, the renewable energy industry certainly provides a benefit to the US in a situation where oil prices are high and variable and natural gas is following along. So certainly renewable energy provides a benefit to us. And yes, I think it does provide a benefit. I mean, where I've seen it recently is just around the world. What we're seeing is people are rushing to renewable energy in Asia, where people are being affected by this war just as much as we are here. There's been a great demand for solar, great demand for electric vehicles. And so I think we will see some it will help it a little bit because it's proof it's safe from global impacts, right? Once you install solar and wind, you don't have to worry about what's happening in global markets, and that's different for pretty much all the fossil fuels.
Right. And when we talk about that growing industry that you mentioned, is there an inflection point where this industry really took off? Has it been steady growth for some time? And if so, when did that really begin? Can you sort of broadly chart the expansion of the renewable energy industry for us?
Yeah, I don't actually have a great picture of that. I only know the pictures that I see, and I can kind of share. It's that it's been what we call like exponential, and so it's hard to say exactly what the inflection point is. But it went from a few niche people putting solar on their roof to becoming much more cost effective to now growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, certainly the inflection might have been in the last year or two. But I think we're going to continue globally. We'll continue to see this growth. Hopefully, we'll continue to see growth in the U.S. as well.
And if we were to just chart the next decade, is there anything that you're looking at specifically that you expect to really take off when it comes to the renewable energy industry? Is there anything that you think is sort of a guaranteed symbol of its success or of the fact that it's here to stay when it comes to the future, the near
Mhm.
future?
Yeah, well, I think we'll continue to see it grow. I mean, I've done some particular studies in offshore wind, so I'm interested in that. What we've found is that it's decreasing in price very rapidly, that it's surprising experts kind of time after time after time. They predict how much the cost will go down, and then the cost goes down way more. So I'm very interested in seeing where offshore wind goes in the future, and I suspect that its price will come down to make it very, very competitive, and that, we'll continue to see solar and wind grow. And then the next big question is how to balance these intermittent renewables with things like battery storage, pumped hydro storage, or maybe some other technologies like enhanced geothermal.
And you talk about offshore wind. I mean, that hits close to home for us. The Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Project, something we've been monitoring for some time, a price tag of $11 billion, did come under fire as a part of the federal administration's attempt to kind of create a blockade on these initiatives, has since resumed its construction between 20 and 45 miles off of the Virginia Beach ocean front. They are constructing, we can see them at times. It is one of the biggest projects, energy projects that we've seen here in this area. Is that something that you've kept tabs on? Number one, it's considered to be the nation's largest commercial offshore wind farm. Is that something that you expect to have an impact specifically on just our community or to extend far and wide? And what is the future of that initiative?
Yeah, well, it will definitely have an impact on electricity prices in your region. We've seen it already in New England with the small amounts of offshore wind that have already come online. You can see on the different days how much it's reducing prices. Sometimes you even get these negative energy prices. So that you will definitely see. It will be, for your community and a little bit broader throughout kind of your energy area. We'll see those reduced prices, especially on any day that it's windy. It's always really, really nice when it happens, when it's either very cold or very hot. It will drive those prices down. And so that's a very nice effect that you'll see as soon as it starts sending energy to the grid.
And what's unique about offshore wind projects as compared to other renewable energy sources?
Well, so there's two things that are nice about them. One is that a huge proportion of the United States, now I forget what it is, if it's 40% or even more, live on a coast of some kind, right? People live near the coast. And so offshore wind is where people are. So that's the one good thing. The other really nice thing about offshore wind is that the wind blows more there than it does on land, and it blows at a better time. The wind blows in the evening, which is when we need electricity the most. And so offshore wind is very attractive for being near where people live and working when people want their energy.
Okay, very good. Count those among us who live on the coast and now get to experience these benefits. And then, obviously, a topic that is highly scrutinized now, both in terms of its sort of localized impacts on communities and its implications on our economy and our world as a whole, is the construction of data centers. It's something we've talked about quite a bit. I'm wondering if you have a specific opinion on how the intersection of data centers and renewable energy kind of takes place here in the U.S. and what it could mean for either or.
Yeah, yeah, and it's an interesting question. There's kind of a funny coincidence I noticed, which is that 50 gigawatts of wind, solar, and batteries came online last year, and 50 gigawatts of data centers came online last year. And I think it's kind of a nice illustration that, we do need energy to power these data centers, and we are keeping up with them by putting in renewable energy. An important thing is renewable energy, both solar and wind, is what I call modular, meaning that you can put in kind of one wind turbine, and then you put in another five, and then you put in another 500. So you don't need to build one big giant plant. You can build them one at a time. And that means we can bring them online much faster. And that is what we're seeing. My understanding is there is a backlog for natural gas right now. Natural gas turbines are backlogged by about 5 years. We see in some of the important areas in the PJM, which is Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, that they have no natural gas in their queues. And so we need to power these data centers in some way, and it seems like renewable energy is going to be the quickest way to get that moving.
Okay, and my last question for you before we kind of have to let you go here, is there anything at the Energy Transition Institute that you guys are working on that you'd like to highlight? Is there anything that has really stuck out about your students or your work over the past year or so that you want to talk about?
Well, the main thing that stands out is, first of all, how amazing our students are. We have an amazing group of students. And one thing that we really try to do is we have people who work on the technological aspects of the energy system connect with people who work on the human part of the energy system. And so we have people in anthropology, even comparative literature, working with electrical engineers and, economists and computer scientists. And so that's what really stands out. And that has made it really interesting. So to understand, we look at things like there's something called demand response that affects people in their households, and it also affects the energy system. And so it's really fun looking at that from all these different levels. And so maybe that would be the one thing that stands out for me.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that, bringing people together all towards one goal. And we think of it as just an engineering thing sometimes. I love to hear that there's so many more aspects that go into it. Well, Dr. Baker, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on and talking to us about this. It's a topic that I'm sure will have ripple effects for as long as we're around. So thank you so much for hanging out for a little bit and talking to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That is Dr. Erin Baker, professor of mechanical and industrial engineering at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, allowing us to take up a little bit of her time to talk about renewable energy and the renewable energy industry in the United States. And I thought what really stood out there, the Trump administration has, through some of its policy attempts, put a light on fossil fuel and tried to create more of a blockade against renewable energy growth. And Dr. Baker said that growth has been unrelenting despite some of those policies and some of those attempts. So that is that really stood out about the beginning of that interview.